welcome to my channel. My name is Joanna, I'm 20 years old and I'm from Portugal. And I've always enjoyed seeing true crime videos, and I want to be an investigative journalist. In this first video, I'm going to talk about what happened to Maddie Mccann. This case happened in Portugal, and I known this case like since it started. I was 7 years old, but I remember very well when she went missing. Is like one of the biggest disappearance in Portugal. So yeah, let's get started. So on 28th of April in 2007, the Mccann family came to Portugal for vacation with other families that they were friends with. So they stayed in Luz Ocean Club in Praia da Luz, Algarve, is in south of Portugal. And each family had their own apartment, so they would have more privacy and that stuff. And both Gary and Kate Mccann, who were Maddie's parents, were doctors, and they had 3 children. Maddie, who was 3 years old at the time, and then the twins, who were 1 year old at the time. The Mccann and the other families had the habit to go out to dinner without their children because the children were all small, they were all toddlers, and we all know how toddlers behave in a restaurant. So they didn't want to bother other people with their kids' screams and stuff, so they decided to leave the children alone in the apartments. They usually gave them some type of medicine that would let them sleep through the night, so they wouldn't notice that their parents were gone. And they say that this was safe because the restaurant where they went out to dinner was 35 meters away from their apartments. So they claim that they could see well the apartments, and if someone strange tried to get into apartments, they would see. Clearly not, because one kid went missing. But anyway, the restaurant where they were having dinner was called Tapas Restaurant. And so there was Tapas Restaurants, there was the pool of the resort, and then there was the apartments. So it was close. This system that they have of checking on the kids, because they went out to dinner, and in 30 minutes, one of the parents will go and check on all of the kids and make sure they were safe. And this was going pretty well until May 3rd. That's when Maddie disappeared. The Mccanns didn't enter into the apartment from the front door because they said that if they did, people would notice that the children were alone, and they didn't want that. So they locked the front door, and they would go in and out of the apartment through the back door. And this is one of these doors that only locks on the inside, so they can lock. So they literally left the back door open, which in my opinion was not very smart, because you have 3 small children and you leave them alone. I still don't understand this. So now I'm going to start talking about what happened a few hours before my disappearance. All of the families went out to dinner, and they have the same routine. They gave that medication to the kids so they would sleep throughout the night and you wouldn't notice them. So at 8:55 p.m., the first parent goes to check on the kids and make sure they're all fine. He went there, they saw all of them sleeping, so they were all fine, and so they went back to dinner. Then at 9:10 p.m., it's Maddie's father's turn to go check on the kids. So he walks into his apartment, he sees Maddie, he sees the twins, they are all sleeping. So he also noticed that the window and the back door was more open than what it was supposed to be, but he just decided to ignore that fact and goes back to dinner. But when he was walking to the restaurant, he runs into a friend of his, and he stays there for a little bit talking to him. At 9:20 p.m., Jane Turner goes to check on the kids, and she claims that when she was walking to her apartment to go check on her kids, she saw Gary talking to the friend. And she also claims that she saw a man walking down the street carrying a little girl, and that little girl was wearing pink and white pajamas, which is exactly what Maddie was wearing that night. But this was proved to be a lie, and there's proof that she didn't even left the restaurant table. So I don't know why she said this. Maybe she was trying to give Gary an alibi. Maybe she was trying to protect him. We don't know, but there's proof that she didn't left the restaurant table, as she never went to check on the kids. And another strange thing is, how could she saw like the colors of the clothes that that little girl was wearing? Because it was dark at night, and she wouldn't be able to see him. So she lied, and we don't know why. At 9:31 p.m., one of the parents goes checks on the kids. He claims that he saw the twins sleeping, but he doesn't remember if he saw Maddie, which is weird because you had one job to go check on the kids and you don't remember if you saw all of them. That's a little bit weird for me. And he also claims that he doesn't remember if the back door and the window were open, or like more open than what it was supposed to be. How can, that's all he says. He says that he doesn't remember, which for me is a little bit weird. Then at 10 p.m., it's Kate Mccann's turn to go check on the kids. She walks into the apartment, she sees the twins sleeping in their bed, but she noticed that Maddie is not on her bed. And she also noticed that the bedroom window is open. So she immediately starts panicking because she can't find her daughter anywhere. And what does she do? You could think, well, she grabs the twins and go ask for help. No. She leaves the twins alone in the apartment and runs back to the restaurant screaming they took her, which people find it very weird because she assumed immediately that someone took her daughter. And like, Maddie was 3 years old. She could walk. She could have waken up and walk out of the apartment. Like, the back door was open. She could have left, and like, she noticed that she was alone with her siblings and she went to look for her parents. But no, Kate Mccann immediately assumed that someone took her daughter. So they call the police, and police arrive at 11 p.m. Portugal has 3 types of police. They are GNR, PSP, and judicial police. First police to arrive there was GNR, and they came to the conclusion that that was too much for them. So at 11:50 p.m. they decided to call judicial police, because that's when a child goes missing, usually that's the police who will investigate the case. At midnight, they arrive in Praia de Luz, and then it begins the biggest search ever in Portugal. GNR, PSP, judicial police, firefighters, Cruz Vermelha, maritime police, and patrol dogs, all of those were involved in the search. I'm sorry for my accent. I'm Portuguese. English is not my first language, and there are some words that I find hard to pronounce, so I'm sorry. But right at the beginning, police made some mistakes. For example, they should have sealed the crime scene, the Mccann's apartment, and they didn't. So there was a lot of people walking in and out of the apartment, and if there was like any evidence, like if she was actual kidnapping, if there wasn't like DNA or any evidence that someone that wasn't supposed to be there was there, it was gone. Or it would be like extremely hard to find, because there was a lot of people walking in and out of the apartment. So they should have sealed the scene, and they didn't. And then like that night they didn't find any trace of Maddie, and the Interpol only made a global alert of missing children 5 days after she disappeared. So, but now let's talk about the theories that the police have. So the first suspect was Robert Murat, and he was only considered suspect because he lived 137 meters away from the Mccann's apartment, which for me is stupid, because like, if my neighbor was murdered, I will not be the suspect because I live right next to him, right? That wouldn't make sense. So, and the thing is, this man like all of this man did was trying to help the police communicating with Mccann family. He translated to English what police said and translated to Portuguese what Mccann said. So the only thing this man was trying to do was help, and he ended up being the suspect. But this man had an alibi, and the police took the patrol dogs to search his house, and they didn't find anything, so they had to let him go. Next, Kate and Gary Mccann were considered suspects. So they were considered suspects in their own daughter's disappearance because they said and did things that was very suspicious. In the beginning, Kate assumed immediately that someone took her daughter, which people find very suspicious. Then they were always changing their story, which police found very suspicious because you only change your story if you're lying. That's the truth. Like because if you're telling the truth, your story will always be the same. Of course, like you can remember more details, but at the end of the day, the story is the same, and they were always changing the story. There's another thing that people find very weird is that their daughter was missing, and they never cried in interviews. Like, I know people react in different ways to certain situations, but it's their 3-year-old daughter. They had no idea where she is, and they never cried. Like, it's been 13 years since she disappeared, and I never saw them cry in an interview. So then the British police got involved, and that's one of the things that I actually don't understand why they came to Portugal, because if a Portuguese child went missing in England, like, British police will be the police that will investigate the case, not Portuguese police. So that doesn't make sense. But they came here and they bought 2 dogs, and those were 2 very special dogs. One was trained to track the smell of blood, and the other one was trained to track the smell of dead body. They took the dogs to the Mccann's apartment, and one of them barked, like the blood dog barked behind the couch, and there was literally trails of blood. And the other dog barked inside the closet. And the Mccanns had rented a car like a few days after Maddie went missing, and both of the dogs barked in the trunk of the car, which was really weird. And police also found a boot in the car, and they ran a lot of tests in it, but they didn't find anything. So all the results came back inconclusive. So there was nothing that proved that the parents did something to her. So the next theory, and this is like the theory that most people believe, including me, is that the parents accidentally killed her. So as I mentioned early this video, they gave medicine to the kids so they would sleep the whole night and wouldn't notice they were gone. There are some people that believe that maybe they gave a little more than they were supposed to Maddie and she overdosed. But as I mentioned before, they were both doctors, so I don't believe that that was the case. And the other theory says that maybe even with that medicine, she was able to wake up, and she got out of bed, and she heard her father's voice. Because remember, he was, after he went to check up on the children, he ran into a friend and stayed there for a bit talking to him. So maybe she heard the voice and tried to reach out to the window. That there was the window and there was the couch. And there are people that believe that maybe she hopped on the couch and was trying to reach the window and fell behind the couch. And that will explain why there were found traces of blood behind the couch. And people believe that when Kate went to check on the children, she found Maddie behind the couch and she was bleeding, and she panicked and she hid her body on the closet, and that explains why the other dog barked in the closet. So as I said, this is the theory that most people believe, and it's said that at that time, by the time she went missing, there was a church in construction, and it said that that's where her body was buried. But we actually don't know because there's no proof of that. But most people believe that that's where she's buried. The next theory, and the last theory, is the Pizzagate theory. And this theory involves sexual traffic, and a lot of American politicians, including Bill and Hillary Clinton. So, and there's two other men that aren't actually politicians. They are John Podesta and Tony Podesta. They worked with Hillary in her campaign, and he said that they were in Portugal by the time that Maddie disappeared. And they were considered suspects because police had two drawings of what the man that was carrying the little girl down the street looked like. But the thing is, and actually they say like these two men are very similar to the two drawings, but that drawings was one man with two options because it was dark at night. People couldn't really see if what the man looked like, so that didn't even make sense how they're gonna accuse two people when the based on a drawing when the drawing was only one man. So yeah, they came to the conclusion that they had nothing to do with the case. And then Gonzalo Moral, the investigator who was responsible for this case, was fired after saying and showing proof that Gary and Kate Mccann killed their own daughter. I asked why he was fired after he said that. Maybe because and he showed proof. Maybe because he was right. So Kate said that the window was open. So we assume that the kidnapper left through the window. But Gonzalo Moral says that it's impossible for a person with a child in his arms left through the window without touching anything, because the only fingerprints that were found in the window were Kate's. Then he proves that the only way the intruder could have opened the front door was either with a fake key or removing the lock. But that didn't happen. The lock was there, and why would a random person have a fake key of the apartment unless they worked there or they were already planning to kidnap her? But no one actually believes that this kidnapping was planned. And all the doors and all the windows had no sign that someone had to try and break it in. After he said this and after he showed all of this proof, he was fired. It's been 13 years since she went missing, and in June of this year we had more information. So British police have proof against a 40-year-old German man, Christian Bruckner. I have no idea if that's how you pronounce the last name, but anyways. And he's currently in jail for sexual abuse. I think he raped a 73-year-old lady, but he was also in jail in the past for abusing minors. So he's a pedophile. And British police claims that they have proof that this man was in Portugal, living near where Maddie disappeared by the time she went missing. And they also say that they have proof that he made a phone call 1 hour before Kate Mccann went to check on her kids and noticed that Maddie wasn't on the bedroom that she shared with her two siblings. And then, as the weeks went by, we got even more information. So apparently this man was at a club in 2014, and he confessed to his friend that he knew what happened to Maddie Mccann. And he also said that it was easy to get rid of a body, which his friend found it very weird. Why would he say that? But also there's not actually proof that he said that. And another time he was hanging out with his friends and they were talking about Maddie's case, and they say that he started to get really nervous and asking them to stop talking about that. But there's no actual proof that this even happened. But there's no proof that this actually happened, that he actually said this. So yeah, I don't really believe that he has anything to do with this case. And Gonzalo Moral said a few years ago that British police would find a way to blame this man for kidnapping and possibly killing Maddie, because Portuguese police had already investigated this man back in 2007. Because one thing that Algarve has a lot is pedophiles, and Portuguese police had a list of them, and they investigate all of them, and they came to the conclusion that this man and the other pedophiles had nothing to do with this case. I found this very suspicious that he said this a few years ago, and this year he was considered the principal, he was considered the main suspect in the investigation. But yeah, like I said, the theory that I believe is the theory that most people believe is that the parents accidentally killed her, because that's a lot of very strange things going on, and Mccann said very suspicious things. They were always changing their story, and even if their friends' stories didn't align, it was a time that they stopped collaborating with the police. And like, if your daughter is missing, why would you stop collaborating with the police? Like, don't you want to find her? That's all that we have for this case. It's been 13 years since she went missing, if she did went missing. And I don't know if I would like to know what really happened to her, but I don't know that. I don't believe that we'll find out unless like the parents confess, because like I said, I think the parents did something. I think they are involved. Like, it wouldn't be the first case that parents are involved in their own child's missing. I have other cases that I want to talk about, and I will make videos about it, that the parents killed their own children and pretended that the kid was missing. So, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if they are actually involved, but I believe it was an accident. That's all for this video. I really hope you enjoyed. You can leave suggestions of other cases you want me to talk about in the comment section, and also don't forget to subscribe my channel and turn the post notifications on so you get notified every time I upload a new video. I'm planning to upload videos every Saturday. Really hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to subscribe, give a like, and comment down below what you think of this case, which theory do you believe the most, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye!